This is a Fatal 4 podcast.
Prepare to shuffle those feet from side to side. It's time for Squared Circle Strafe, the premier video game podcast of the Fatal 4 podcasting network. I am your host, Pro Wrestling Noah, aka Noah Stewart, and it's time to talk about video games. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Today, we are here to talk about the recent Nintendo Direct, over 60 minutes of Nintendo goodness to cover. Also, Acclaimed had a showcase. They certainly that is a thing that happened, and I will talk to you about some more time spent with Silksong and a particular retro horror game that I have dived into. So why don't we kick off the show by talking about Nintendo? That's right, folks. Nintendo had a big direct, bigger than usual. I feel like even their bigger directs tend to be about like 40 minutes or so, but this they covered a lot of stuff in this direct. When you kind of zoom back and look at it, it's like not like the heaviest announcements, but there was a lot of it. And some of it, I would say I had a pretty good time with this. There was the stuff announced in this direct I personally am pretty stinking excited for. So why don't we get into it? They kicked off this direct by telling us about Super Mario Bros. 40th anniversary celebration. That is the 40th celebration of Super Mario Brothers, not Super Mario as a character, because Super Mario was a thing before Super Mario Brothers, the NES game. So like a little like, like kind of a little sweaty of a reason to celebrate there. But they started talking about what they are. The first, I would say, like maybe 20-30 minutes of this direct was dedicated to Super Mario Bros. Related announcements. The first one being that they are adding some more stuff to the Super Mario Brothers wing of the Nintendo Museum in Japan, which is definitely something, if I ever go to Japan, which my wife is starting to think of, like, that being like our next big trip that we're saving up for in, the next handful of years here. So that is definitely on the list of things we want to do when we go to Japan. So I would love to potentially, I don't know if this is like a timed thing that they're having these, extra new bits in the museum for the Super Mario Brothers 40th year anniversary section of the museum or whatever. But I would love to see some of that stuff. They also said this is very so Nintendo of just like, okay, they announced that they are sponsoring the Kyoto Marathon for 2025, and the bibs that the runners will be wearing have like Nintendo branding on them. So cool. I mean, I guess if I was watching this from Japan, I'd be like, ooh, but as an American viewer, I'm like, okay. The next thing that they showed off was kind of a big deal to them, maybe, I don't know. They showed a trailer for the Super Mario Galaxy movie. This is the sequel to the Super Mario Brothers movie. They start the trailer off with, hey, here's the Mushroom Kingdom. Oh, there's a butterfly. Oh, but wait, the butterfly's flying into space. And then, like, I was watching this trailer and I was like, okay, yeah, it's the sequel to the Super Mario Brothers movie. And then once the butterfly gets into space, you hear the main theme for Mario Galaxy, that ba 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 ba, and immediately I got goosebumps. Call me a sucker, but Super Mario Galaxy is like is probably my favorite 3D Mario. I don't know. Odyssey's really good, but it's up there for sure of being one of my absolute favorite Mario games of all time. I am constantly singing the like first level music in my head from that movie, the na, 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 na. And yeah, that got me. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go see it. I try to see most video game movies except for the Minecraft movie because I just wasn't that interested. But try to go see all the video game movies so I can talk to you about them on this here podcast. But speaking of Mario Galaxy, the next thing they announced was that Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 are coming to the Switch. We are getting HD, well, HD. I think they were kind of HD before. That we're getting upgraded ports of Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. Now, if you remember, Mario Galaxy 1 is technically on the Switch already. It was made available through that trilogy anniversary pack that they put out on the Switch around like 2020, I think is when that came out. And that one had Mario 64, Galaxy, and Sunshine. But the thing about that one was that it was a timed release, right? Like that you are not able to purchase that one anymore. I think you can still download it from if you have it in your purchases through your Nintendo account, but it is not available to purchase anymore, which again, very Nintendo thing. But they are making Mario Galaxy 1 available for purchase again, and Super Mario Galaxy 2 is coming to the Switch for the first time, which I personally am very excited because I love Super Mario Galaxy, but for whatever reason, I never got Galaxy 2. I've never played Galaxy 2. I've heard it's excellent. Some people even say it's better than the first one. So I am excited to have a very accessible way to play that, or a good excuse to play that again. The catch is, though, that they are putting the Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 as like a bundle for $70 to the Switch, and I believe $40 if you want to buy them separately each, which is pretty steep. That's pretty steep. Not gonna lie, that's it kind of brings the appeal factor down a little bit, but I will probably still pony up for at least Galaxy 2. And then next Mario game announcement, they announced Mario Tennis Fever, which I thought was a little interesting. It's a full game. It's a full tennis game, which I think is a little soon after we had already so recently gotten Mario Tennis Aces, which was, the tennis game for the first Switch. And I think people liked that game, but I don't think it had a fully fleshed out RPG mode. I think people were kind of missing that. That's when people talk about the Mario Tennis games, people tend to talk about, I think it's specifically the GameCube one having a really cool fleshed out RPG kind of side game for, their sports games. And I just think it's interesting because the most recent sports game they did was Aces. And usually they'll kind of dip into okay, how about something like Mario Hoops or Mario Baseball or something like that. But they're going straight back to tennis, which I think is probably the most successful of the Mario sports games. Maybe golf. No, they did golf between that time, I guess. But I don't know. It looks good still. Obviously, Nintendo tennis. They have fun designed rackets for everyone. There's one that looks like a thwomp that's very attractive. But yeah, I don't know. Something about it just seems like, oh, okay, already? Wow, all right. And then they announced Super Mario Brothers Wonder, the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of that game, coming with an extra bundle of DLC called Meetup in Bellabelle Park, which just looks like kind of the standard Switch 2 upgrade for a Switch 1 game, where it's the same game, but here's an extra, little section of map that you can go to have some more extra levels and content. And where they're going to be kind of sprinkling some of the extra collectibles that you can get in that zone throughout the rest of the game. So if you hadn't had a chance to play Wonder, I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed Wonder. So that will be available on Switch 2 as an upgraded edition. And then weirdly, the next thing they announced was that they are putting out a physical toy of the talking flower character that has been in I think it was introduced in Super Mario Wonder, which is really weird. And it like under it specifically, it said not an interactive toy. So it's like not even a thing that you talk to and it talks back. I think it just has like a physical button on the figure that you press and it just kind of says canned things, which how much you bet that that thing's going to cost like $40? Knowing Nintendo, it's probably like, okay, that's way too much for whatever this thing is. And then they announced a new Yoshi game, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, which looks very much like a Yoshi game. In that when they were first showing off the trailer, I thought, ooh, is this like a sequel to Yoshi Story? Because it has a similar kind of, coloring book, storybook quality to its art. It looks really good. But as they're showing off the gameplay for it, it's like, oh yeah, this looks like a game for babies. Like it looks like a game geared toward very young children, which I think they have established the Yoshi brand as being that, like with all the, kind of specifically Yoshi starring games are kind of these very chilled out, very easy going platformers, which that's fine. So I'm not like super excited for this thing, but I will, if I follow a streamer that's playing it, I'll probably watch them play it a little bit. That's kind of where I'm landing on that one. Now we're exiting the Mario block of the Direct as they kind of announce some third-party stuff. They had a game called Stormlancers Shadow Drop, which kind of looked like a co-op Metroidvania thing. Dinkum, which is the name of a video game. Dinkum, a farming sim game. After watching this Direct, I talked to my wife, who apparently said that this game has been in early access on Steam for a little bit. So not a particularly new game, but it's new to the Switch. Poppycom, coming to the Switch this holiday season, and I believe is also like it's early access maybe on Steam already. And it is a co-op third-person puzzle-solving game with like a Puyo Pop style thing where there's like these little goopy guys and you have to match 3 of the goopy guys to get rid of them and move on. It looks neat. It looks like a fun co-op experience that I might want to try at some point. Then they showed off Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream, which looks amazing. They showed off a trailer for their most recent, big Direct like this, and they're just kind of showing off a little bit more what you could do in this game. Kind of, Tomodachi Life being this kind of very Nintendo style Sims kind of thing where, you make a bunch of Mii characters and they just kind of hang out in this world and get up to funny shenanigans. You can kind of pair them up together and make friends with other people. It looks like a really, funny game to just kind of chill out with. So that's coming spring 2026. Still pretty far off for that one, but excited for that. Then they showed off some new details about the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection coming to Switch. And that, man, Digital Eclipse is so good at these archival, like, docuseries games. And the other ones, like, are, feel very academic, like they did, Atari and Karateka, the games of Jeff Minter. But this one, I feel like, is going to really hit heavy for a lot of people. Like, I'm not even a huge Mortal Kombat fan. I'm more of a Street Fighter person, if you had to pick one. But this time in video games, the the edgy 90s Mortal Kombat, the Ed Boon. This looks like some really, really fascinating stuff to dig into. And it comes with the Game Boy version of Mortal Kombat, which is a novelty in and of itself. Let's see, they announced that Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade is coming to Switch 2, which is pretty impressive, given that, I think the Final Fantasy VII Remake, I want to say, has existed on the Switch in like the cloud version, which, you never want to play those cloud versions. Not cloud strife, but cloud as in cloud computing. They also put out the Kingdom Hearts games on Switch in that way too, and I've heard that's just a really bad way to play those games, a lot of latency. But that will be made available for the Switch 2, being played natively, so that seems like that'll be a good way to play that if you don't have access to any of the other stuff that game is on. Linked Banner of the Spark shadow dropped the same day that this showcase happened. This is the big one. Hades 2. We got a release date for the 1.0 version of this game coming to Switch and other, places. 1.0, September 25th. This month. It is very soon. And I'll talk about it later, but I'm still playing Silksong, and I feel like this has really put me on an accelerated path to, oh god, I need to finish Silksong before Hades 2 comes out and devours my attention. Oh my god, I'm so excited for Hades 2. And, it's been in early access for a while. And from what I've had friends who have played the early access version and said that it's fairly, even when it first hit early access, it felt fairly complete. They just, kept adding stuff to kind of tail end of it and kind of tweaking things here and there. But I just wanted to wait for the full release. I tend to, do that with most early access stuff. I just like to wait for when it's done cooking. And it seems like it's almost ready. They're ringing a dinner bell. Everyone gets seated. Oh god, Hades 2. Let's go. They announced some new amiibos for Kirby Air Riders. Very cute amiibo. And also kind of, I think this is a new thing that they're doing specifically for this, where they have amiibo figures of like Kirby and Bandana Waddle Dee, and they also have the star or vehicles that they are riding on, and you can pop them out of the vehicles and swap them, which is pretty neat. The scary thing though is that they announced that there will be another Kirby Air Riders Direct happening in like a week or two, which is, a sequel to the 40-minute Direct that they already did with Sakurai, going over into extreme detail about this game. And I'm afraid, because what else does this man have to say about this game that they didn't cover in that first Direct? I watched that first Direct and like fell asleep for the last 10 minutes of it. I was, what else can they do? They announced Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment coming November 6th. That's the kind of, Dynasty Warriors style Musou game taking place in the Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom world of Legend of Zelda. This one, I think, kind of has some details about like kind of what Zelda was getting up to with the warriors from Tears of the Kingdom. During that time, we got a announcement for Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, which is a remastered version, or like remake actually, of Dragon Quest VII coming to Switch 2. And it's coming February 6th, which is really soon, which is surprises me with how like suddenly they announced this and how good it look. The HD looks really, really good on it. Good character design, animation. This one I've heard is like the longest Dragon Quest though. I think maybe in kind of tied with Dragon Quest 11 in that it's like 100 hours or something of JRPG, which seems insane, but that's there for the sickos. Let's see, Kirby. There was the Kirby specific update for the Nintendo Today app, which I haven't even downloaded that thing. Don't really know much about that. Oh, okay. Here we go. They announced new games coming to Nintendo Switch Online, the Classics Collection, if you are subscribed to their service. Virtual Boy is coming to Nintendo Switch Online. And not only that, but they are putting out a Virtual Boy headset, a physical Virtual Boy headset for you to play the Virtual Boy, these emulated Virtual Boy games on your Switch, where you physically open up this Virtual Boy headset and pop your Switch into it to play these games, which is insane. They're also, I think that they already had some listings for this, that the Virtual Boy headset is going to be like $100. And then there's a Labo alternative that you can get, kind of a cardboard setup where you pop the Switch into and hold it up to your face, which seems like a really uncomfortable way to play these games, but you can, that will be like $25, which is a little more, a little more available, but also seems like a way worse way to do it. I don't know. I'm very tempted to get this headset. Oh my God. I really like the Virtual Boy. I've played some emulated Virtual Boy games on my, my Magic Virtual Boy here, wink, wink. But yeah, it's man, what a crazy thing. People were like, oh, like Nintendo Switch 2, it's just like the Switch 1. Where's the funky weird Nintendo? Here they are, baby. Here they are. They're coming out with a Virtual Boy peripheral to play a thing that they would, in most cases, rather you forget ever existed, but now it's been long enough to where it seems like they're embracing again. They're bringing 14 Virtual Boy games to the service, which I think might be all of them. We might be missing a couple, but I think it might be all of them. I'll have to double check, but it's crazy. It's crazy. Speaking of crazy, scary, Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly remake coming in early 2026. Nintendo 2 editions of a bunch of games like the One Piece Pirate Warriors game, Overcooked 2. They're adding like the webcam functionality to it, which is fun. Stardew Valley is getting 4-player split screen co-op, which is neat. Human Fall Flat's getting some stuff. Power Wash Simulator 2 coming to Switch fall 2025. Very excited for that. They announced a sequel to the Suika game, that like melon puzzle matching game, puzzle falling game, whatever you want to call it. Suika Game Planet coming winter. Then we finally got a trailer for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. And she's got a motorcycle now, folks. Samus has a motorcycle. They did not show this for that last trailer the last trailer they put out was just looked like Metroid Prime. But this one, she's got a crazy cool looking motorcycle, which you use to drive around what appears to be a big like desert open world, which seems like a interesting, unique wrinkle into the Metroid Prime formula, where you are driving around this open world with this motorcycle, shooting down some flying baddies they showed off in this trailer, and then you go to specific points where you get out to do Metroid Prime stuff. So that looks neat. And we also finally got a release date for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and it is December 4th, 2025, which scares me about its potential for, Game of the Year considerations, but it's Nintendo. They're not going to be hurting that much. They'll be fine, but it hurts me for me making lists because I don't think that's enough time for me to really consider where it would land, but we'll see. Then we got some DLC coming to Donkey Kong Bonanza, DK Island plus Emerald Rush, which the Emerald Rush thing looks to be like a kind of roguelite situation where you're like busting up a bunch of stuff and then it pops up 3 upgrades for you to do and you keep going. It looks really neat. That shadow dropped, that's available now. Then we got Pokemon Pokopia, which is a Pokemon farming sim starring a Ditto that turns into a human girl. And it looks terrifying and crazy. But it honestly looks really neat. Like if there was a farming sim I could get into, this might be one, because the abilities that you get to kind of, till your farm and clear out, parts of the environment and stuff is all abilities provided to you by Pokemon friends that you meet. So like you'll become friends with a Scyther and suddenly you can chop down trees with your Scyther Arms, or you become friends with a Drillbur and you can, kind of till the ground to make new patches for your farming. Become friends with a Hitmonchan and you can box away all the solid blocks of earth to make room for other stuff. It looks neat. So yeah, Pokemon Pokopia, I feel like that's going to be a big hit for them. Pokemon Legends ZA coming October 16th. They showed off a trailer for a paid DLC called Mega Dimensions, which is it from what I could gather adds some more Mega evolutions for Raichu, and it'll probably have some extra story content perhaps. This game, I don't know. I loved Pokemon Legends Arceus, and I'm still just feeling like I'm less excited about ZA, even though Pokemon Legends, at least from my time spent with Arceus, seemed like it was them trying some new ideas with the Pokemon formula, and this still has some of that, but I don't know. It's I from what I've heard from journalists who have gone out and played some advanced time with it, it sounds like it's pretty good one of these. So I don't know, I'll be cautiously optimistic about it. Keeping my eye out for that one coming out next month. Then Danganronpa 2 Paradise Island and Danganronpa 2x2 coming to the Switch 2 in 2026. Hyrule Warriors Origins coming to Switch 2 with some new DLC. Monster Hunter Stories 3 Twisted Reflection coming March 2026. And then they had like a rapid fire, sizzle reel of a handful of games: 2 Point Museum, Disgaea 7 Complete, EA Sports FC 26, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 Remake, Virtua Fighter 5 Revo, Lego Voyagers, Little Nightmares 3, and Persona 3 Reload. Then they showed a trailer for Resident Evil Requiem, and this, it kind of seemed like it left off from where the trailer that they showed off during Gamescom was, which is interesting. So we got like a little bit more story details, and Resident Evil Requiem is going to run on the Switch too, but even from the trailer, I could kind of tell, looking a little rough, looking like it's the Switch version of Resident Evil Requiem. But, regardless, I will be excited to play this. Probably going to play it on PS5 if I'm honest, but still very excited for a new Resident Evil. They also announced that Resident Evil 7 and 8 are coming to the Switch 2 specifically, so probably better running versions of those games. Then their one last thing was an announcement of a new Fire Emblem game, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. From what I gathered from reactions, this game seems to be like a pretty direct sequel to Fire Emblem Three Houses. I have not really played a ton of the Fire Emblem games, so I could not tell you what specifically to be excited about for this one specifically, but it looks pretty. It looks, maybe this will be the one. Maybe this, I don't know if this is really a good one of these to jump into. I guess we'll see, but hey, more Fire Emblem tends to get people excited. So overall, I thought this whole direct was really solid. The thing it was missing, I think, was kind of the next big Nintendo game. Like they didn't have an announcement for a new, big Mario game or big Legend of Zelda game, which, we got Tears of the Kingdom like 2 years ago, so might feel a little too soon for that. But I was maybe expecting something like Animal Crossing. It's definitely been long enough since Animal Crossing that came out like during the pandemic. So I don't know. I feel like it was we're kind of missing what the big future looks like for Nintendo. But there is still some stuff that I'm very excited to get my hands on. That Mario Galaxy 2 port coming. I'm very, very excited about Hades 2, even though it's not Nintendo exclusive. Very excited for that. Metroid Prime 4, obviously. That Pokemon farming game looks neat. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to be excited about that they showed off in this direct. So very exciting times coming for video games. Why don't we take a quick break, and when we come back, I will tell you about another showcase that happened. All right, guys. Acclaimed is back. Acclaimed, the publisher of video games from most prominently the 90s and early 2000s. They are back, and they had a showcase this week before the Nintendo one, which was probably smart to do. And it they had some stuff. I think they were really hyping this thing up of like, hey, remember Acclaimed? We're back, and here's some video games. And what they showed was so the thing about Acclaimed is that in the 90s and early 2000s, they were really known for their licensed properties, like, games based on TV shows and wrestling and stuff like that. And this is not so much that. What they showed here was that it appears that they are going to be a publishing arm for a lot of kind of smaller indie games, and not really ones that you've heard of or look that particularly interesting. they showed off like 9 games in this thing, and a lot of it just looked kind of like very kind of boilerplate indie, some indie action, like versions of games that you've seen before, but a different IP, let's say. There was some kind of interesting stuff. They showed off a game called Pixel Washer that looks like a kind of top-down 2D pixel version of Power Wash Simulator, which, is something I could get into, perhaps. He plays a little pig that sprays stuff with a little power washer, so that's something. They showed off a game called Grid Beat, which looks like a kind of puzzle rhythm game. It looks kind of interesting. The most interesting thing that they showed off during this whole thing was at least for me, was a game called Hyper Yuki Snowboard Syndicate, which upon first glance looks like they are really tapping into some SSX Tricky DNA here. Kind of a, downhill snowboarding game, very focused on tricks, and you got a boost meter, and just even just like the perspective, the way that the game draws in its graphics, it looks very SSX Tricky. It's got kind of a aesthetic that is like a Jet Grind Radio, let's say, very cell shaded, lots of aggressive colors, and it it might look a little janky, but I love SSX Tricky, and I'm glad that someone is trying to make a game like it. So that's definitely something that I'm kind of the most looking forward to. And then this was a bummer. They had we got one more thing, which all showcases love to do. And their one more thing was a shadow drop for a game. Well, it wasn't even a shadow drop. It was a game that already had a release date, Katanaut, which is a like side-scrolling action platformer. It looks very gory, but their one more thing was, by the way, this game that was already slated to come out, it's out, but it's being published by us now, which I guess is exciting for them. Not really much me, the consumer. But yeah, apparently, like if you checked this game, Katana, if you checked its Steam listing before, like maybe 36 hours before this showcase, they were self-published, but they changed it to being published by Acclaim. So glad they're getting money for that. Not really the most exciting finale to this whole showcase. So I don't know where we land on this. Maybe, hopefully, through the sales of this is kind of slow beginnings for them, and maybe we'll continue to see maybe some smaller indie devs get picked up by them to do some more bigger, exciting things, but it's not really the most exciting thing right now. But hey, if picking up a nostalgic name like Acclaim helps these developers get more recognition and more eyes on their game, then more power to them. So that was Acclaim, everybody. I thought I'd take this section of the show to do a little recommendation corner for not for video games, but for some just kind of like extracurricular on the edges kind of stuff. Specifically on YouTube, there are some fun videos that I've been watching that are video game related. Giant Bomb has started their next season of Blight Club, Minotti Hide Mike, which has Mike Minotti playing virtual hide for the Sega Saturn. Blight Club is their series where they play bad video games to completion. They make them wear funny costumes. It's a great time, and they've really been killing it, especially with this new independent era of Giant Bomb. Gives them kind of a little bit more freedom to do some really cool stuff. So yeah, Minotti Hide Mike is a fun highlight of that. Folding Ideas, the video essayist who has done a variety of different topics on their channel, has kind of gone back to their roots of talking about some video game stuff. They recently put out a video essay called Call of Duty, Ghosts, Power, Paranoia, and Orbital Tungsten Rods, which is them kind of doing a video essay covering why they think Call of Duty Ghosts is the worst video game they've ever played. And maybe not necessarily even like, from an empirical standpoint, but more from a standpoint of a game with that much scope and budget, and it being as bad as it is kind of justification for it being like one of the worst games ever made. And it's interesting. I thought it was a really cool, thought out piece of writing and video essaying. And then something I really want to shout out is No Clip, Danny O'Dwyer's and co, their documentary YouTube channel, have started a new channel called No Clip 2, which is where they are kind of shuttling off a lot of their extracurricular stuff, having some fun quick looks for a lot of indie games that they're showing off for No Clip 2 here. And it's even a lot of stuff. I feel like I tend to be pretty plugged in on the indie game scene, but even just like a glance at their YouTube page, I'm seeing a lot of thumbnails for games that I don't recognize. So they are really digging up some unique and cool stuff over there to show off. And they're also just doing some like, weirder, cooler stuff. Like they have a interview with Anamanaguchi about them scoring the new Scott Pilgrim series. They talked to some guys about the Heretic remakes over at Night Dive. Just doing some really cool, unique stuff over there at No Clip 2. So definitely go check them out, give them a subscribe. And then as far as podcasts go, I think I may have mentioned Post Games, Chris Persons new, or not Chris Person, Chris Plant. Chris Person is another journalism outlet, but Chris Plant, formerly of Polygon, he has his video game podcast Post Games, which is a very cool, highly edited video game podcast that I really, really like. He put out a episode recently called How Video Game Movies Got Good, which he has guest Patrick H. Willems, which is one of my absolute favorite video essayists on YouTube. He's a film video essayist. And they have a really cool in-depth discussion about like kind of the eras of video game movies and the quality there within. So very, very cool podcast on that. That is Post Games, How Video Game Movies Got Good. I'll include all this stuff in the description for this episode for some links if you want to check that stuff out. But why don't we take another quick break, and when we come back, I will tell you about some of the other stuff, video games wise, that I have been checking out. All right, folks, we are back, and let me tell you about the video games I've been playing this week. Which up until I would say yesterday was mostly just Silksong. Just still very obsessed with this game. I'm really, really liking my time with it. I spent most of my time this week doing a lot of like side activity and still finding a bunch of bosses in the kind of first act area of the game. And then just yesterday, I moved into the second act of the game, which, kind of maybe some spoilers here for Silksong if you haven't gotten to this section of the game yet, maybe move forward a little bit in the podcast. But moved into the second act of the game, which has kind of it became a kind of like anti-capitalist like story in this section, where you are in this very kind of rundown industrial complex that I found really neat to move through, because you're kind of moving through this area where you start at the bottom and there's just like a bunch of corpses of bugs and a lot of stuff that kind of really plays into the like machinery that they have been crunched up into in dialogue that's like, like, oh, only, the only bug worth a damn is, ones that work till they die and stuff like that. And even mechanically, for a little bit, the only ways that you can find benches to rest at are these little pedestals that usually when you find a bench to unlock in the previous levels of the game, it would cost, like 40 rosaries, which are like the currency in this game. It would cost like, 40 of those, which is like, a decent kind of like not too expensive price, but, nothing to spit at. And it, you just unlock it and you get to sit at the save point and move on. But here, the pedestals are like 15 rosary, which is like a pretty cheap. But you unlock it, you sit at it, and then it reverts back. Like it becomes locked again. And in order to sit at that bench, you have to pay 15 rosary again, which in universe tells me that if these people ever wanted to like take a load off, rest at all from work, they had to pay to do it, which is a really, really cool bit of storytelling that I really, really thought was cool. And yeah, the bosses are still really, really challenging. Specifically the last judge, which was kind of the capper to Act 1, kind of really took me for a loop there for a little bit. But I was still, I gave it a few shots and then put the game down for a little bit, came back to it later in the day and was able to finish them off, which, tends to be most of, boss fights in this genre of game. But yeah, game's still real good. Still really, really enjoying the combat. Unlocked the kind of like AoE silk attack, that kind of like floating orb, the Hornet turns into, the you saw encountered with her when you fought her in the original Hollow Knight. Yeah, Silksong's still really cool. If you haven't checked it out, definitely check it out. Probably going to be on a lot of Game of the Year lists, or maybe not, because I saw some of the reviews are starting to go up. There's still a decent amount of outlets that have not put up reviews yet, but some of them, I saw Video Games Chronicle put up a review and gave it like a 3 out of 5, which was surprising to me. But then Eurogamer put out their review and they gave it a 5 out of 5. So I feel like this is going to be pretty divisive because of the ways that it is so similar to the original Hollow Knight, but it's also harder and has, in some ways, more abrasive ways that you progress through the game. But in some ways not. I don't know. I felt like I was like very pushed off of the original Hollow Knight, but maybe it's because of those expectations going into Silksong that I'm having a better time with it. But I don't know. I feel like it's going to be very divisive for a lot of people. I think most people online are really, really enjoying it, but the difficulty for some players I know has been a big point of friction for a lot of people. So, but definitely still, GOTY watch for sure. This is going to be a big, big game for a lot of people. And it's weirdly turning out to be one for me, which I was not expecting. I was expecting to just kind of like, oh yeah, like I'll just play this for the zeitgeist, but I'm still really, really enjoying it. And then speaking of a game that I've been enjoying, I mean, at least as far as yesterday, since I just started playing it, but I am playing for spooky season. I decided to get into some horror games. And the first I am kicking off the season with is Resident Evil 2, but not that Resident Evil 2. I'm not talking about the 2019 remake. I am talking about the OG, baby. Resident Evil 2 1998 for the PlayStation 1, which I'm playing on my PS5 through PlayStation Plus. And I played the original Resident Evil director's cut on my Vita. Is how I originally played that game, which was honestly a really cool way to play that game. But I played that with like a little video walkthrough next to me, which I played like most of the game, just kind of like walking through the steps of it. And by the time I had finished it the first time, I had gotten to know the game well enough to where I could play it on my own and just had like fun doing speed runs of it a handful of times. Resident Evil 1, very good game that I now have, like, I don't know, I did that during college, so I have like college nostalgia for Resident Evil 1, weirdly. But I had never played Resident Evil 2. I think the Resident Evil games I have played is I played 4 a bunch, and then I've played 8 and 5. I finished 5 with a friend. Played Revelations last year. So I don't know. I know the Resident Evil franchise well enough, but I've really only played like maybe about half of it. And I've never played Resident Evil 2, but I had touched it for a little bit on my Vita again, weirdly enough. But I think I got about maybe like 45 minutes into it and just got lost and was like, oh, I don't know what to do. So I put it down, hadn't touched it again since college, decided to pick it up again now, and am having a really great time with it. There are still a couple moments where I'll be like, oh, I don't know where to go. So I'll pull up a video walkthrough to kind of just point me in the right direction of, oh, I need to go there. Okay, cool. So I'll just go there. And instead of having the walk through next to me the whole time, I just kind of go until I get stuck again, which actually hasn't been happening to me as much as I thought it would. And this is it is a horror game from 1998 for the PS1. And it is still like getting me. Like, I don't know if I'm necessarily scared, but I am getting jump scared. Like the jump scares are still really effective in a way that I was not expecting. Specifically the zombie arms that, like, you know, from the outside that come in and grab you down that one hallway. There was an instance where I fell through the floor from a balcony to the floor under, which I wasn't expecting, that really got me. And I think the most infamous jump scare that I knew about ahead of time that this game has is when you're in the interrogation room and the one-way mirror, one-way window from the other room has a liquor in it. And I remember I entered that room and went, oh, this is the place. Oh, I know what's about to happen here. But like the audio in that room is just completely silent, and it has like zero warning when that thing is going to jump out. And when it did, I still yelped. I still screamed. It still got me. I knew it was coming, and it still fucking got me. It was, man, what a game. What a game, Resident Evil 2. Still, after all this time, I'm just playing the Leon story right now. I might, pick up a different game after I finish the Leon story and then do Claire later. But yeah, incredible game. Incredible that a PS1 game of this vintage in a franchise, in a genre that has really evolved since this game, is still so good. So really glad that I decided to pick that up. But yeah, that is, I think, it for the show. Thank you so much for listening to Squared Circle Strafe. Leave us a nice review on Apple Podcasts if you like the show. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Uzi Neon. If you want to catch more of me talking about some real nerdy stuff, you can follow the Didn't Get All of It podcast to hear me and the rest of the Fatal 4 hosts talk about the latest and greatest in professional wrestling. You can also sign up for our Patreon to get exclusive access to our Discord, as well as bonus content and the satisfaction of supporting independent podcasting media. Head to patreon.com/fatal4pod. That's fatal, F-O-U-R pod. Thank you again for listening, and as always, enjoy your gaming.
You've been listening to a Fatal 4 podcast. Subscribe today wherever you get your podcasts and visit fatal4pod.com for more episodes, merchandise, and info on the Patreon.